All right. Here we go back again to the other side of the coin. Look, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that the internet is going to be all right today. Look, that was a bit unusual yesterday. I'm not sure why. I may have a theory, though. I think it might be because of having too many people. I've noticed whenever I had about four last week, Sham had issues technically. This week I had it. I think 3 is sweet. 1 is perfect. 2 is perfect, but nonetheless, So let's get straight into it. We've got Everton versus Chelsea coming up within the next just a bit over 24 hours, I believe. And this is a very interesting match. But before I get into all of that, I just want to welcome my man, Kamal. Thanks for joining once again. I just thought of your name straight away off the top of my mind when I was thinking about, I'm going to do a match preview, but I would rather, get someone to join me. And straight away it just popped in my mind that it has to be Kamal. So, man, thank you so much for coming along. How you doing, man?
No. Thank you so much for having me and even considering me. As I say all the time, it's always an honor to be on someone else's content. So I always get really humbled and privileged, and deep down, I'm really excited. But no, I'm good. So thanks, and we're gonna keep this thing going. Brand Excellence again coming soon.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I enjoy your perspectives a lot, and I find you very witty in the timeline. So it's good to have someone like that, doing these match previews and whatnot. So, come on, let's get straight into it, right? So, this particular match is, as I said, it's an interesting match for us. Everton, they started off the Premier League season, in flying colours. I actually thought when the season started, the first, I think 4 or 5 matches, they were unbeaten or wins. I think they had wins. And I thought, hold on a second, I think Ancelotti might just find himself a team here that could go all the way. You know how you have that false hope, right? And they were playing some beautiful football. I actually watched some of their matches in the beginning, and they were playing some beautiful football with James Rodriguez, Allison looking really, really strong in the middle, sort of, doing what Kante was doing for us. Defensively, they were looking okay. The only suspect probably was Pickford for me throughout the whole time. But very quickly, it was an international break, and then they came back from the international break, and it all started going south for them. Until now, it's gone pretty south for them. Us on the other side are on the upward trajectory. But quickly on the Everton rise and fall, what's your thoughts about how they started and where they are at the moment?
I think they kind of benefited from just everyone coming off of that kind of COVID kind of project restart, and having that little break. They can kind of regroup, and there's no doubt about it. Carlo Ancelotti is a class manager. There's no doubt about it. Forget Napoli and what happened there, and he's proven. So I think the timeline, and like you said, everyone kind of got a bit excited when they beat Tottenham first game of the season, and they had those kind of chain of results, and everyone's kind of like, oh, they could contend, and this is going to be one of those years where something could happen. It could be another Leicester 2.0. But exactly. But this is football. Peaks and troughs, ups and downs. This has been a year like another. This is, I hate to say it, but this is Everton, right? This is typically what they do. They kind of have an up and down season. If you remember under, was it Silva? They kept doing this, they were kind of one of those teams that would beat some good teams, then go through a whole period of not beating anyone, and then they would show up against us, just like Bournemouth would do, and so on and so forth. We have to be worried about. Well, I don't want to say worried, but we have to be on our game, obviously. But this is Everton, man. Since I've been watching the Premier League since '93, this has been them just up and down, up and down. So I kind of didn't expect them to challenge, but I thought they were a good team at the beginning.
Yeah, man, it's a very good point that you said that. I'm pretty certain they're going to show up against us. Even though they're on the sort of up and down, and they've been very dodgy against some teams in recent times, I've got no doubt come Saturday night these guys are going to show up, because this is exactly what they did to us last season. Although we thumped them just after the restart. I think we beat them 4-0. But when they sacked their last manager and then they had the interim manager for a little while, they pumped us, man. That was an embarrassing game for us at Everton, where our defense looked shocking. Kepa was, caught out as well. And I have no doubt that they're going to show up. And it's a very good point that you just said that we better go up there with a mentality that we're not just going to run over them just because of their form. So, it's a very good point. In regards to our form, so we've sort of talked about Everton up and down. This has been historically what they've been doing anyway. But Ancelotti, you think it's a project, and maybe down the track, if they stick around with them, they can do something. But from our perspective, Kamal, how good has been the rise? I mean, I go back to those 2 draws, the Sevilla and the Man United back-to-back draws, and since then the platform was sort of created. Do you sort of look at our trajectory upward, sort of getting better and better week by week? That's how I've been feeling.
100%. I mean, it's evident, right? You see every game. We're not our best every game, obviously. That's just impossible. But the foundation is clearly there. The system hasn't been tinkered with. Frank Lampard clearly has an idea of what he wants this team to do. 4-3-3 all the way. He's got the players he wants in set positions. Injuries are a thing. Injury FC is just typical Chelsea, right? But take that aside, we've been solid. The confidence is just clearly just booming throughout the squad, right from the back all the way through the front. Bench players too, guys on the fringe players that aren't even really playing consistently. They're coming in and showing up and putting in some good performances. Although the Krasnodar game wasn't fun to watch at all, but they held their own and they tried, and we probably should have won the game overall. But like you said, those 2 draws specifically, since then, most goals scored, least conceded, most points. It's just been a complete 180. At the beginning, I kind of put it out there that if we didn't win 5 games or so that we were coming up against, the opposition anyway, that we should have some kind of reservations about this coaching staff, and they've proven me wrong. Hold my hands up, and this onwards and upwards, man. We've got so much potential in this team, and I've called it. I think we're going to win the league. So a long way to go, but I think we're going to get there.
I completely agree with you as well. I sort of said the same thing off the back of those 2 draws that we had a run of about 7 or 8 games where. We should be winning. Obviously, there was that Spurs game in between, which was still a fine result. We were probably the better team. Should have gone out and won that match, but nonetheless, it was still an okay result. But you look at the fixtures that are upcoming right now as well. These are very much winnable games, and the only concern, as you said, is the injuries, which we'll talk about. But 100% agree with you as well in regards to we're getting better and better and better. And Frank sort of agrees with that as well, that he can see that the team is improving week by week. Now, let's talk a little bit about, let's start analysing this game a little bit. Let's look at the Everton threat. I've got 3 big threats lined up, which I want to talk to you about. First of all, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. This guy's on the rise. I mean, I've been so impressed by him, Kamal, this season. Not just this season, since last season when he sort of had that breakout last season. This season, every time I see him, Kamal, I feel like he's what I want from Tammy Abraham. Like every time I see Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I feel like I wish Tammy was like that. And this is not, I'm not having a go at Tammy or anything like that. It's more just a fan sort of feel, because I see Dominic Calvert-Lewin's hold-up game is very strong. He's quick. He's robust. He links up well as well. Aerially, he very rarely misses out an opportunity to score and head up. And what's your thoughts about Dominic Calvert-Lewin's rise in recent times?
Yeah, it's been meteoric, right? I mean, like you said, since the project restart, he's just turned into a different player. He always kind of seemed to be one of those players that had potential but didn't really grasp it. But here he is, and I'm sure if anyone plays fantasy football, he's in 99.9% of teams. He's in mine. He's been banging in goals.
He's in mine, man.
Exactly. He's a cheap player. You've got to have him, man. He's been solid. He's been consistent. And like you said, it's kind of like what you want Tammy to be. But his overall game, he's definitely more prolific. There's no doubt about that. That's probably the best word to use, right? He takes his chances and he scores goals. Overall game, maybe the stature. I'm not sure how they compare in terms of physique, but Tammy seems to be a bit more muscular, a bit bigger, kind of different kind of players. But yeah, overall, Calvert-Lewin has been.
I think height-wise, they're probably the same as well.
They look it, but just in terms of the physical stature and the way their body shape is, Tammy seems a bit more that bulky kind of back into a player as opposed to getting behind the line. But yeah, Calvert-Lewin he should be competing for an England spot. There's no doubt about it with Harry Kane. Harry Kane has been phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. But he should be like 1A and 1B absolutely just based on this season alone. So he's a big threat. 100%. Thiago Silva, Zouma, they're going to have to be eyes on him at all times, making sure that he doesn't get lost. He's a big threat, and I don't want to say scared, but based on his current form, he's one of those strikers that can do some damage.
You've kind of touched on the whole, Thiago Silva and Zouma have got to be very, very concentrated towards it. Let's talk about this. I'm jumping the gun because I was going to talk about this particular matchup. Dominic Calvert-Lewin versus Zouma. I think that's going to be a very key matchup. You've got Zouma, who's aerially strong, and he's been ripping apart all sorts of stats out there. And he's been scoring goals as well with his leap. And there's plenty of pictures from, I think, SW6 lately where he's got that leap and his legs are going sideways.
Right.
And that's the kind of leap that Zouma does, right? And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, one of the key aspects I've seen him, not only he leaps well, but his movement towards when it's an aerial ball coming through, his movement is great. There's a reason why he's always there at the right time. We always talk about Tammy, right, Kamal, how he's centimeters away. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's never centimeters away. He's there, and he's knocking it in. Either he gets it in or he's just missing slightly either side of the goals. But how important do you think this matchup is going to be in this particular match to see Zouma, our big, strong, guy who's been ripping apart the stats, up against Dominic Calvert-Lewin as well?
Massive. And I think what they're calling him is Air Zouma, right? After Air Jordan.
Air Zouma.
Air Zouma. So I think Zuma's got a slight edge on this one, actually. And I know he was on loan at Everton a couple of years back. So he's I don't want to say he knows Dominic inside out, but he knows his game. He knows his traits. He knows his strengths. He knows his weaknesses. He was there an entire season. They played alongside each other. And obviously, Dominic has, risen, and he's not the same player he was then. But he knows the little nuances that Thiago Silva probably wouldn't, just based on playing with him and training every day for an entire season. Zouma has been fantastic. He's just been unreal. And that leap, Jesus, he gets like a good foot above everyone else. He's just so high he jumps. It's ridiculous. It's an important, probably, like you said, it's probably the most important matchup tomorrow. I say tomorrow in 2 days for me. But yeah, that's going to be fun to watch. And Zouma does have a mistake in him. Let's be real. He does have those kind of lapses in concentration now and then. So he's going to have to be at his A1, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Now I want to throw in another threat here into this whole mix, James Rodriguez. Now, James Rodriguez sort of reminds me of our player Ziyech. He kind of does a similar thing that Ziyech does for us in terms of distribution. They've both got that inverted cross where they go from the right, cut in, and boom, and they flick that ball across. And they've, in recent times, Everton for some reason hasn't been able to do that kind of maneuver. But in the early days, they were doing that with James Rodriguez. I'm pretty sure they're going to turn it on. Come they see Chelsea jersey right in front of them, they'll turn it on.
Right.
How important is perhaps Chilwell's game because he's probably going to hover around that side of the pitch, James Rodriguez, and he will look for that cut in and look for those diagonal balls, trying to get Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison as well, which we'll touch on as well. How important is that we have our focus set nicely against James Rodriguez?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I mean, everything seems to go through James, right? It's like how we were with, I don't want to put comparisons or parallels to Hazard, but everything went through him. It was like, give him the ball and let something happen. Kind of like Cesc Fabregas, like a pure number 10 in that sense. He's a dictator for them. I think he has fallen off in recent times, purely just due to injury, I'm sure. First season in the Premier League, it's tough for any player. But he kind of had his honeymoon period, but he hasn't really done much since. But of course, he's still a threat. Everyone turns it on against Chelsea. It's just the way it is. Like you said, exactly. they see our kit and they're like, okay, it's go time. So yeah, I think it's not just going to be Chilwell. I think Chilwell has been this season incredibly underrated defensively. He's been fantastic going forward, but nobody really speaks about his defensive duties. He's been probably I'm going to say he's probably been the best defensive left back in the Premier League this year.
For sure. Yeah.
Aerially, his stats have just surprised me.
You know what? Sorry to cut you in there. I think we need to talk about it. Aerially, Chilwell, he's not a very tall guy, but
no, he's not.
I've honestly seen him get every single aerial duel. Yeah. Like the way he leaps and gets that. Mm-hmm. Someone needs to. I think you're going to talk about the stats. I wouldn't be surprised if it's close to Zouma's stats.
I wouldn't surprise. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but the last time I saw someone tweet it, he was up there. In terms of percentage of aerial duels, he was surprisingly far and away. Winning 90% of them, if not more. Yeah. And then his one-on-one duels, he's been fantastic. So he's got that side locked down. That James doesn't scare me as much as the player we're going to get onto. With N'Golo Kante as well, sitting in that position, kind of mopping everything up. Them two together, I think it would be okay when it comes to James. It's just making sure again that they don't get lost. But it seems the communication and being aware of where everyone is has just been fantastic this entire season so far. So we'll be all right.
Brilliant. Now let's talk about Richarlison. I think that's the guy that you were sort of worried about. Richarlison's robust. He's physical. He's fast. But he's going to come against probably Reece James, which
that's the point.
If in the sense of Chilwell being the best left back in the league, which I don't disagree with as well. I think Reece James is probably not just the best right back in the league. I think he's the best right back in Europe at the moment. He's so dynamic and beast going forward, going backwards. But Richarlison will be a good challenge because he'll need to check himself that every time he bombs up that he does track back and get to Richarlison. And Richarlison's got the aerial threat as well. He's scored headers against us. So your thoughts on Richarlison, my man?
Yeah, he's scary. He seems to score goals against us consistently. I don't know what the numbers are again, but it seems anyway, every time we play each other, he scores. And he's one of those players that could do nothing all game, but will just come out of nowhere and score a goal, whether it's a banger or in the air. He's incredibly underrated in the air, just like you said. That battle, I completely forgot about. I think last time it was Azpilicueta who got kind of outdone physically by Richarlison. So this time, Reece James is a freak of nature in the physical sense, and Richarlison isn't. He's not a pushover either. So that's going to be really entertaining to watch them two go at it. But I think Reece James is again. He's just his progression this season. I think he can lock up anybody. So we should be okay. But Richarlison, out of everyone in that team, is probably the one that scares me the most, honestly.
No, for sure, man. It's turning out to be a juicy matchup, this match. Their front three against our backline, who's been so solid. This would be a good test for our backline. And I want us to be tested, do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And Everton's a kind of team, they're going to push for the win here because they're sliding 100%. Downward. So it's not going to be one of those matches where Spurs versus us, where Spurs sort of hold back because both teams are okay with the draw. It's still early in the season. But Everton here, they're going to push for the win because they need it badly. So it'll be a good challenge. Just before we wrap up the whole Everton side of things, I just want to talk about two more players before we get into our side of things. Doucouré and Allison, they're blockbuster midfielders, solid, robust, especially Doucouré. It's got the engine of someone like Kante as well. Thoughts on how we nullify? Obviously, we're going to play the 4-3-3, I'm pretty certain. But midfield is a bit of an issue due to the injuries that we have at the moment. How do you sort of line up against Doucouré and Allison? Obviously Kante will be one of them. Who are the other two that you sort of feel needs to play to negate them?
Personally, I do think it's going to be Mount and Kovacic together.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I think them to just make more sense against this opposition. Just on the basis that they're non-stop pressing, they're press-resistant players too. They're underrated in the defensive duties of things. They don't stop trying. They chase every ball. So Doucouré and Allen, they're underrated too. Don't get me wrong. They're solid, and people kind of sleep on them because they play for Everton. But no, they're really good players for sure. And on their day, they can hold it down. But I do think, in order to nullify that, I don't think you can risk a Kai Havertz and Mount together, because it's just you need some kind of balance. You need some kind of essence of defensive duty as well. And both of them together probably don't offer that. So Kovacic and Mount, I think, could probably handle themselves. And Kovacic has been fantastic of late, and so has Mason Mount. Let's not deny it. I know the fan base is so torn in him. For what reason, I don't know. But, it's them two together have been fantastic. And, I think they've got enough in them to – the legs as well. I think they run a full 90 minutes. So stride for stride, they'll be up there. Physically, Mount isn't probably as physical as Doucouré or Allen, obviously. But he's not going to stop running. He's not going to stop trying. So that's those two for me, for sure.
No, makes sense. I know we're going to come to the lineup down the track in this preview. But, it's for me as well, probably would be Mount and Kovacic, knowing Kai Havertz might play in the wings because we are so short in numbers. Now, let's talk a little bit about us. Let's focus on us. First thing, I just want to recap from the press conference. Christian Pulisic. Again, another niggling injury. I know I saw you tweet out something very showing your frustration towards this particular player. For me, I think even though Frank sort of said that he's back again, he's training, but he had that niggling injury against Leeds. I don't know. I feel like he's doubtful to start this particular match, because if he's had that injury, I'm a bit worried. I'm a bit worried to start him and then lose him for a long stretch of time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
How do you feel as a fan constantly about Christian Pulisic like this? Whether, can I start him? He's back from injury. Like, is it really back? Like, it's really frustrating, right?
Absolutely. It's tough, because we all agree that he's probably our best player, if not top three, top 5. And he's young. We all want to see him. He's so dynamic. He's so direct. And it's a player that can win a game by himself. And we saw him do that for us after Project Restart, when he was just, best player in the league, bar none. I mean, so we know what he's capable of. And it is frustrating, because his tenure with us has been blighted by injuries. I mean, he hasn't gone, I'm probably exaggerating.
I don't think he's finished the season.
Exactly. So, I hate to exaggerate, but it doesn't feel like, anyway, that he goes 5 game stretches where he plays every game. And it reminds me a little bit of Iron Robin back in the day. But the hope I do have is that Iron Robin kind of progressed his career and kind of went through a period of injuries with us. And then as he went on to someone else, like Bayern Munich and Real Madrid, he was fine. So I think we need to stick with him. Obviously, we're all fans, so we're all naturally frustrated because we want him to play every game. But starting on Saturday, I do think he does, but probably limited to about 60, 70 minutes or so. If not, he comes off the bench. But that also goes to what we'll get onto later. It's lineup. I mean, if you don't start Pulisic, you have 0 wingers besides Timo Werner, but he's not a winger for us, right? So you have none. So I do think he starts just based on that reason alone.
Yeah, no. This is the one thing that's really, really scaring me in this particular match, and also the matches that are coming up. And let's now talk about this particular thing as well, where Ziyech and Calvert-Lewin, Frank has said in the press conference that they're gone for at least 2 weeks. So, what does that mean? Like, they're gone for 2 weeks. That probably means that probably not going to even feature in 3 weeks' time, because they're going to come back to training and slowly. So we're probably not going to see them for at least 3 weeks' time. And then when they do start featuring, it'll be again off the bench, a few minutes, like slowly by slowly. It's not going to be thrown straight into the starting lineup and go out there and start crunching it again.
Exactly.
So, let's just quickly talk about this whole makeshift wingers. At the end of the day, Werner is not a winger. Kai Havertz is not an out-and-out winger. Do you think this could pose a bit of an issue for us in the upcoming matches in terms of Ziyech being a creator as well from the wing. Yeah. How much of an issue could this probably be for us?
Yeah, this is big. Because you say 3 weeks. It's already, it's the 10th of December. So this takes out the entire Christmas period, which is the biggest period in world football. This is massive because without 2 rotational wingers, you're going to have to play Kai Havertz more than you want him to, and potentially play him in a position you don't want him to either. So you're hampering his development, and you're hampering the team because he's not comfortable there.
Yeah,
you want to rest Christian Pulisic and you want to rotate, but you can't. You want to rest Timo Werner, but you can't. And creativity and stuff like that. At the beginning of the season, on paper, you look at our squad and we're like, we are fantastic. We've probably got the best squad in the Premier League due to depth. But what we forgot was you lose 1 or 2 guys, and now we're kind of screwed per se.
Screwed again. Yeah,
it's tough because Ziyech is, I think, statistically in the games he's played, he's far and above the most creative player we have, just in terms of chances created, all that kind of stuff. Hudson-Odoi, okay, he doesn't play much, but he gives you something in terms of a number when you need a direct winger off the bench. And so, it's tough, specifically because we're coming up. Christmas period is going to be so difficult for us, in my opinion. Arsenal, and then 48 hours later, it's Aston Villa. And 3 days later, it's Man City. It's not easy. So it's tough for everybody. Don't get me wrong. We're not making excuses. This is football. But losing Christian, Pulisic just coming back from injury and having that kind of on and off issue, and then Ziyech, someone who hasn't barely featured this season. He started off injured, came back injured again. Hudson-Odoi has been injured nonstop for the last 18 months. It's heartbreaking, but it's next man up, as they say, right? So we have to deal with it.
No, absolutely right, man. It's a very good question here from 360 Waves 360. We can play Mason and Timo on the wings. What you both think about? Look, we've seen Mason obviously on the wings. It's not something that we encourage because he plays much better in the midfield. But if it comes to that situation, he's going to have to fill in. Like, if we have no one to do that job, he's going to have to fill in because, as you said, Kamal, we've got so many games back-to-back coming up. I'm worried for players like Werner and Kai Havertz to continuously play in the wings because that's a lot of running men. Wingers, they got to come back and they got to bomb up. They got to come back and Kai Havertz, as we know, he's just come back from the illness and he's not completely back yet. And Timo Werner, we've always been saying that he deserves a decent rest, which I don't think he has yet. He's been playing for Germany as well. So these are some interesting times coming up for Frank Lampard as to how he deals with the team. I think this is where the midfield of, having the players like Billy Gilmore and Jorginho, the likes of Kovacic and all of that, they will need to play a little bit in the midfield. So maybe, as much as we don't like it, maybe Mason gets shifted around again because we're just down on players. Because, there may be times where, Kamal, we might want to play with Timo up front. Do you know what I mean? Like, not have Tammy and or Giroud and have someone like Timo. So, nonetheless, it is a bit of an issue for us. Let's now quickly talk about how we could perhaps hurt Everton. I've seen a couple of Everton matches in recent times where they've been not that great. They're getting hurt in the midfield area, especially it's uncharacteristic from players like Allison and Jokore and a few other. And the back line isn't solid. They don't have Luka Dean and they don't have James Coleman. So they're missing those players in the back. I feel like our players, hopefully Timo Werner, Pulisic, and our midfield as well with Mason Mount and Kovacic and Giroud being in such fine form. Through the middle is where we could possibly hurt them and really get at them and then distribute the balls to the wings. Absolutely. Is that how you sort of picture getting Everton, or do you sort of see a different type of attack?
No, it's been in exactly the same way. It's kind of play through the middle and distribute the ball from there. And one thing I really hope to see tomorrow keep saying tomorrow is shots from outside the box. I want to see us pepper that because Pickford is so suspect. No disrespect to the man, he's a professional player, but let's be real, he's suspect when it comes to just goalkeeping in general. So I want to see us pepper him, litter the box with crosses, shots, all that kind of stuff. And, Mason Mount's capable of that. Kovacic, maybe not so much. But, I definitely think it's going to be, build up from the back, play through the middle, get in between Decore and Alan, and spread it. God knows who's going to play right wing.
One of the biggest weakness, Kamal, is Pickford as well. As you said, spray the shots at Pickford. Pickford gives me Kepa vibes. Is that how you feel as well? Yeah.
He's worse than Kepa. He is. Statistically, he's worse. I'm an England fan, obviously, born and raised. And the fact that he's still our number one for England is mind-blowing to me. You got Dean Henderson, you got Pope, who never get shouts. It's just ridiculous. Pickford has been, I don't understand why he doesn't get. This is going to sound so bad, but slated, not the right word, but he's criticized. I would say, there doesn't seem to be as much, criticism towards him. Exactly, there you go. Because he's England's number one, so they kind of ignore it. But he's not a good goalkeeper, man. He's really not. So yeah, we need to put him as much under pressure as much as we can. So crosses into the box, and we know we're going to do that with Reece James. We know we're going to do that with Chilwell. And so get in between. They don't have their fullbacks, like you said. I wasn't aware of that, actually. I didn't know that Luka Dean was out and Coleman. So I'm not too sure.
They weren't playing last week. I'm pretty sure they're out unless they're back from the injury. I don't know. But Coleman is definitely out for a long period, I think.
Okay. So, whoever their right back's going to be, Timo Werner has blistering pace to get in behind. So, and then Michael Keane, I don't rate Michael Keane, and Mina and whoever else. They're not top tier. So we should be able to bully them when it comes to defensive duties on their end for sure.
Yeah, and last time we played them, we beat them 4-0. I think there was goals from midfield from Mason Mount. As you can recall as well, there was goals from, I think Pedro might have scored as well. Giroud scored, I think. So, hopefully Giroud gets his, back his shooting boots again and keeps pumping the goals. It's an interesting comment here from DJ SavJ17. He was talking about how rather Tino Anjorin play there. Tino Anjorin, this is a good one. I mean, I completely forgot about. He is part of our Premier League squad, right?
He should be, and even if he's not, because he's under 21, I think there's no issue registering, so it shouldn't be an issue. To answer the question, he's not an out-and-out winger, no doubt. He's not. He's more of a number 8, number 10. Just kind of, he's basically a Ruben Loftus-Cheek regen, right? He just fits that mold perfectly. But he's not going to complain, and he did okay. He did okay against Krasnodar, so he could definitely feature if he needs to. So I'm okay with that, just in the meantime.
Yeah, me too, man. I've actually come to think of it, I was, as you said, I was very, very impressed with his performance, especially in the second half against Krasnodar. And someone like Tino Anjorin could be, very, very valuable during this time where we're a bit short in numbers. And it's got that robust sort of that, Ruben Loftus-Cheek stature, which will come in handy. Now, before we get into our lineups and formations and whatnot, our score prediction, just quickly, Frank versus Ancelotti. I think Frank, as we've sort of said, beat him 4-0 last time, but this time it's at Everton. Frank was very humble about, in the press conference about Ancelotti, how, of course, he had the respect for him, learned a lot from him, and definitely, he's played a part in his career.
Right.
How do you think this isn't as big as obviously Frank versus Jose? Frank versus Jose to be a bit of a showcase, but similarly, how big do you think this is in your opinion?
When it comes to them two, I think there's a pure mutual respect, a pure love for each other, pure admiration for each other, and I don't think in the history of me following football, I don't think Carlo Ancelotti's ever pissed off someone. I don't think he's ever got into a touchline spat. He doesn't seem the type. He's just too nice. And, from a Chelsea perspective, as fans, me specifically anyway, it goes Jose, best ever manager for us, and Carlo right underneath. 09, 010, hands down the best season I've ever witnessed in terms of pure entertainment, attacking football.
Yeah.
Most goals we've ever scored. Frank Lampard's best ever season.
Yeah.
You know, you hear other Chelsea players at the time.
That was
exactly, man. Yeah. You hear about other Chelsea players, at the time, man. If I'm not mistaken, today Ashley Cole says Carlo is the best manager he's ever played with. And that's including Jose, Wenger, all these other guys. So it's high praise. Carlo Ancelotti is no joke, man. I mean, he's won everything everywhere he's gone. I love the man, but you know, it'll be nice just to see them go against each other. It won't be any far cross or anything like that. It'll be cool. I'd
be happy if they just clap head together.
It'd be awesome. But I don't think Carlo's got it in him. I don't think he's that kind of man. He'll just be like, oh, whatever. You know, I'll smoke a cigarette after the game if he still does. But he's so chill by the looks of it.
No, absolutely, man. Look, it's going to be a good game. I think some of the matchups we've already touched on looks very juicy. As we said, their front three with our backline, our sort of front sort of attacking prowess that we have in our midfield against their midfield, their weak, leaky sort of defense. Now let's get straight into the formation and lineup. Let's go with you first of all, Kamal. Your formation and lineup, my man.
4-3-3, easy. I think it's nailed in for the rest of the season, to be honest with you, unless something drastic happens. I think we're going to be spot on with each other when it comes to lineups. So Mendy, Reece James, Silva, Zouma, Chilwell, Kante, Kovacic, Mount. Right wing kind of throws me off here. I do think it's going to be Kai Havertz. You know, he'll do that. He'll play there if he has to. He won't complain. And then Giroud no, excuse me. All right, so I think track back a little bit. So I think there's going to be Giroud up top, and then Pulisic and Werner.
Oh, okay.
So Kai Havertz will be off the bench.
Okay.
No, yeah.
That's probably the biggest difference you're going to have with me. So your team, let's just quickly recap. Mendy, undoubtedly. Reece James, Thiago Silva, Zouma, Chilwell.
Yeah.
Midfield of Kante, Mason Mount, Kovacic. And then you're going to have Pulisic, Timo Werner, and Giroud.
Yep.
Brilliant. All right. Now, that's a solid team. And I think that's more than capable of doing the job. My team, I'd have the only difference that I would have is, obviously the backline, same as yours. In the middle, I think we need to just quickly note here that Kovacic deserves to start. As much as we've all been an advocate that, Kai Havertz needs to play in midfield, he's been playing really good. But that was because when Ziyech was playing. When Ziyech was playing in the right wing, they complement each other very well with Kai Havertz playing in the midfield. But now that Ziyech is injured and also Callum Hudson-Odoi being injured, and with Kai Havertz just slowly finding his way back, Kovacic in recent times have looked really, really good. Off the bench against Leeds, I just tweeted out yesterday. He not many people have been talking about this, Kamal, in Chelsea football community, but his impact off the bench against Leeds was superb. We need to praise that because the way he kept on breaking the lines in the second half, it completely destroyed Leeds the way they want to play, right? So undoubtedly he deserves to play. And of course, Mason Mount, he's been on the up in recent times, and Kante, no doubt. In the right wing, I'd actually have Kai Havertz. I'm a bit weary about Pulisic. If Frank's talking about that, he picked up a hamstring injury against Leeds, and now, he's back again training. I'm not entirely convinced by this situation because I'm worried that in a big match against Everton, who are physical and they're robust, they run, I don't want this player to get injured. As you said, we are short on wingers. I'd rather him come off the bench. So for me, Kai Havertz starts in the right side, and there's some talks about Frank was sort of saying that Kai has been saying that he's willing to sort of fill in that situation. Kind of what Ziyech kind of does, distribution, cut in and find that ball. Kai could possibly try and emulate that. So I'd have him with Reece James bombing up. Kai can tend to sort of come in and be that inverted sort of winger, allowing Reece James to sort of overlap, which falls into our plan. And I'd have Timo Werner on the left and Giroud up front. And I think that would wrap my team up. So just the one change. Just quickly, my man, score prediction from your side.
Let's go. I'll go 3-1 Chelsea. I think it's going to be pretty comfortable in the whole thing, and the whole game. And I do think they just nick one, like a random goal out of nothing. It's probably going to be Calvert-Lewin because you can just kind of book it, right? But I think we've got enough to overpower them. Specifically, their defense is suspect. So I think 3-1 overall for sure. I think we got this.
No, I think we've got this as well. I tend to think our defense is really gonna, put up a show here. They're going to be going in there with this swagger, thinking. Many people probably expecting a goal against that back line, especially with the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison and James Rodriguez. I feel like these guys are going to turn up and just go, you know what? Clean sheet coming up. Clean sheet coming up. So I'm giving ourselves a clean sheet here. I don't think, I feel like Zouma is going to thrive in this challenge against Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So I'm going to give ourselves a clean sheet. I think we are going to score at least 2 or 3. So for me, either 2 or 3-0. But clean sheet for sure. And man, I can't wait because we need this win. This win will keep us, floating up front. Just a final thought before we wrap things up, Kamal. If we win this, I know you've already mentioned that we are in the mix of winning, in the title contention. If we win this, Kamal, are you going to go out in the timeline and just plain out say we are here to win the league this season? We really
I've already said it. I'm way past that. I'm way past that. Yeah, I'm way past that. I can't remember what game it was, but yeah, no, So we've got it. I think just based on if we're being real for a second, I think just overall squad depth. This is a season like none other. I don't think Spurs are going to go all the way, and not because they're Spurs and they bottle it. None of that. I just think if one thing happens to Harry Kane or Son, one of those two, that is it. Their season is done. They're crumbling. They're not going to be able to sustain that. Liverpool have not looked good defensively. Injuries plighted them too. Man City, they're going to be around the mix, but I think we've found a formula and a system that works now. So I don't see any issues why we shouldn't win the league, but it's tough. It's tough. It's going to, a long way to go, but I think we got this, man.
I love it, bro. I love it. You're so confident. I like that. I'm confident as well that I'm not going to go out there and just say that we're going to win it. I'm more sort of thinking we should be in the mix of it. We definitely should be in the mix of it.
100%.
Because obviously it's still early in the days. But look, nonetheless, thank you so much, Kamal, for doing this preview with me. Guys, every single one of you guys that have been joining in and out throughout the whole session, hope you guys had a good preview here from us. We've covered almost every ground that we could possibly do for this particular match. So Kamal, until next time, and all the fans out there, see ya.
Take care, guys.